Hi, sixth graders. We are on Unit 6, Integers Unit. This lesson is on subtracting integers. Label the top of your page with subtracting integers. How could you write a subtraction expression to represent this number line image? So if we're looking at, we start at 0 and it's showing that we go right 6, so that's positive 6, and then we go left 7, which we know then is 6 plus negative 7, we end up at negative 1. How can we write this as a subtraction expression? We could also write this as 6, and we're subtracting 7, and we still get negative 1. Because we're at 6, subtraction goes to the left, and so we end up at negative 1. So to subtract an integer, we add the opposite. So write that down. To subtract an integer, we add the opposite. Oops. So 6 minus 7 is negative 1 is the same as adding negative 7. So see how we just change that to an addition and make that negative. So let's look at some examples. 8 minus 13. So this is the cool thing about subtracting integers. We make it an addition problem, and then we already know how to add integers, so then we just go from there. So I keep my first number, 8, I change it to an addition, and then I add the opposite, which is negative 13. So 8 plus negative 13, I know that I really do 13 minus 8, and I get 5. 13 is greater and it's a negative, so my answer is negative 5. And I think back, if I go right 8 and then I subtract 13, so go to the left 13, it makes sense that I would be in the negatives and have negative 5. Negative 10 minus 7, I keep the first number alone, like don't do anything with it, keep it the same, change to addition, and then change the second one to the opposite. So negative 10 plus negative 7, both signs are the same, so I add 10 and 7 and keep the negative. You try these three on your own. 6 minus 12 is 6 plus negative 12, which is 12 minus 6 is 6. 12 is negative, it's greater, so negative 6. Negative 20 plus negative 15. 20 plus 15 is 35. Keep the negative, and then it's negative 35. Negative 22 plus negative 26. 22 plus 26 is 48. Keep the negative, so it's negative 48. Subtracting negative integers. So we do the exact same thing, except it gets a little confusing possibly. So we still change it to addition. We keep the first number. We have 1 minus negative 2. So I have 1. I make this addition. So sometimes we say chop, like we kind of chop the subtraction and make it addition. And then we have to add the opposite, which is now going to be positive 2. So 1 plus 2. So it's, if you kind of think of it as like chop, chop. So 1 plus 2 is 3. Negative 10 minus negative 7. So I go chop, chop. Negative 10 plus positive 7, because now it's positive. 10 minus 7 is 3. 10 is greater, and it's negative, so it's going to be negative 3. You do these ones on your own, these three on the bottom. So chop, chop, 4 plus 12 is 16. Negative 15 minus negative 5 would be chop, chop. So negative 15 plus positive 5. So if you're going to do the chop, chop, make sure that you rewrite it and copy it correctly. So negative 15 plus 5, I know, is negative 10. And then 18 minus negative 6 is 18 plus positive 6, so I get 24. Notice that after I do the chop chop, I rewrite it just to make it a little bit neater and clearer so I know exactly that I have an adding and is it positive or negative. It keeps me nice and organized. And then I have my answer, which I circle. Evaluating an expression. So if I have x minus y, x is negative 6, y is negative 5, evaluate, remember, means to solve. So evaluate x minus y if x is negative 6 and y is negative 5. So I'm going to rewrite x minus y. So x is negative 6 minus y is negative 5. Okay? Sometimes we can write it as just like this, negative 6 minus negative 5. Sometimes we would put a little parenthesis around this negative 5. Notice that it breaks up because if I have like this subtraction sign and this negative sign kind of gets confusing because there's like two right in a row. So this parenthesis right here, all it does is splits the subtraction sign with the negative sign. It's doing nothing to negative 5. It still is negative 5. There's nothing that I have to do differently. So then I do my chop chop. So negative 6 plus 5, and we get negative 1. Okay, do these ones down here. Evaluate each expression. If A is 5, B is negative 8, C is negative 9. So B is negative 8, so negative 8 minus 10 is the same as chop minus, we would say. So negative 8 plus negative 10 would be negative 18. A minus B, so 5 minus negative 8. I'm just going to put my parenthesis in there so I recognize that it's different. And then I do my chop chop. 5 plus 8 is 13. C minus A, so negative 9 minus 5. I do chop minus. Whenever I change my subtraction to addition, I have to change the sign, no matter what. If I'm going to change anything with my problem, if I'm changing the sign, I have to change the sign of the second number. Because if we C minus A, if we have negative 9 minus 5, and then if we just go negative 9 plus 5 and we forget to change it, well, negative 9 minus 5 is negative 13. Negative 9 plus 5 is negative 4. So those are two totally different answers and they're not equal. So not negative 9 minus 5, which is negative 9 plus negative 5, is not negative 13. Oh my gosh. Negative 14 would be my answer. Oops. The temperatures on the moon vary from negative 173 degrees Celsius to 127 degrees Celsius. Find the difference between the maximum and minimum temperatures. So we are going, if we are just kind of picturing this on a number line, here's 0, negative 173, and 127. That is a humongous difference. So we want to know what's the difference. So we're going to take 127 because we're going to take our maximum and we're going to subtract the minimum. So 127 minus negative 173. So now it's a subtraction, subtracting integers. So I change it to adding the opposite, or chop chop. Now I can do 127 plus 173. I know 27 and 73 is 100. And then, so I have 100 plus 100 and then another 100. So my difference is 300 degrees. My, and for this one, okay, even though 173 is greater, oh, wait, never mind. I was thinking of adding, never mind. So we already have the positive. So 127 plus 173. So this is a 300-degree difference, which is crazy. That's a huge difference in temperature. The Dead Sea's deepest part is 799 meters below sea level. A plateau to the east of the Dead Sea rises to about 1,340 meters above sea level. What is the distance between the top of the plateau and the deepest part of the Dead Sea? 799 meters below sea level is going to be written as negative 799. 1,340 meters above is just going to be kept as 1,340. So we take 1,340 and subtract negative 799. I'm going to make this an addition problem. So chop, chop. And then I'm going to cheat and use my calculator. 1,340 plus 799 is 2,139 meters is the difference. We could just say 2,139 meters, or we could say there's a difference of 2,139 meters between the plateau and the Dead Sea. Another huge part. Wow. All right. Concepts for subtracting integers. We leave the first number alone, change the subtraction sign to addition, change the sign of the second number, and then add using addition rules. Chop, chop for two subtraction signs, chop minus for a subtraction sign and a positive number. I would write chop, chop and chop minus down. If you need the rules, if you want the rules, I would highly suggest writing those down. And then have your notes for class tomorrow. Have a good night.